this is so cool. This is the first time that I'm using StreamYard, and we use the countdown. And I'm here with Stephane Seguin. I'm really happy to have you here. We quickly spoke about this to
Right,
meet this platform for the first time. So just
right.
quickly, my name is Josefine Wanner. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am a former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and business growth strategist. And I am constantly growing my network. And one of my latest network buddies is Stefan that I met with, I think it was last week that we met Stefan for the
Correct.
first time.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
And you're a sales and business coach. You are located in Canada, but you have European roots. And were you in Cancun now, or where or like in Mexico? Where are you?
Yes,
Location
yes. So that's
currently.
right. So I'm become a worldly citizen. So now I'm staying for a while in Cancun right now, in Cancun, Mexico. Love it here. So first of all, I want to say, Jennifer, thank you, Josephine, not Jennifer. Sorry, Josephine. Thank you so much for inviting me to your platform here and to your audience. Also, I want to say it's also a great opportunity for me to expand my network as well. We met just last week, and look what technology can do, and just bringing people closer together, right? And what's interesting today is an opportunity to get answers sometimes from problems from people from other regions, getting that outside perspective, right? So look, it's an honor, it's a pleasure, I'm really happy to be here with you today.
And even though we kind of like have different kind of we're in different locations, I think that a lot of the problems that we as entrepreneurs face and other entrepreneurs face too are usually the same things. And the topic that we chose for today's discussion was why what took you here won't get you there, because that is one of the things that you hear all the time. Well, what took you here won't get you there, and people kind of throw this around, but what does it really mean? So I would like to cover that in today's discussion. But I also know that you are a sales coach, so I think it would be really cool if we could get maybe one or two of your best sales tips that you would like to share with us. And I don't want to keep this for like a long, because no one really has the time to listen to people, even though we are really fun and really cool to listen to us, but we ramble along all the time. So I'd like to keep this a fairly short, like 20, the next 30 minutes. If we get any
That's
live
perfect.
viewers, we can ask any questions if they pop up. Otherwise, I mean, both you and I are on LinkedIn, so people can connect with us on LinkedIn. This is also being broadcasted into my Facebook community, the Online Entrepreneurs community, where people can ask questions in there too. And if there are any questions in there, I am able to pick them up later on too.
Excellent.
But if we,
Sure, absolutely.
cool. But if we start with, how did you become a sales coach in the first place, Stefan?
That's an interesting question, and I've had to do some thought process looking at this and taking some notes. And what ended up happening is, so I've been in sales for 25 years, which is most of my career. I especially around IT sales. But what ended up happening is I noticed that I have this affinity of being able to help people, coach people whenever there's something they don't understand, especially if I've been through it and I know it. I love to share what I know with people to help them. If I can save them 3 months, 6 months, a year of time, for me, that brings me a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment. And being able to see people scale, become new, transform, become, it's a little bit like, from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Seeing people evolve like that, for me, is so rewarding. And when I look back at my career, and I looked at, well, at first I wasn't quite sure I was a coach, right? Because maybe the imposter syndrome, or maybe I didn't quite put the finger on it. And then one day I kind of woke up, and this was after a conversation I had with a senior manager. And I said, you know what? I mean, what it is, this is coaching, what I'm doing. In this particular
Yeah.
case, the question came out of about how to address, how to put together a territory plan that to attack new customers to bring in new clients. And that manager, since I was in the field, was asking me a bunch of questions, and I was, at the same time asking him questions about, well, what's your vision? What do you want to accomplish? Where are you going? What's the impact to you? What's the impact of the business? And from there, I said, you know what? That's coaching, right? And
Mhm.
I said, yeah, this is what I want to do because this I've been doing this forever. So it's great. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Coaching is probably one of the most misused words. And in the beginning, I didn't want to call myself a coach either. I said, what did I say? Uh, a life strategist, I think I called myself in the beginning. I
Right.
was thinking, if Tony Robbins can call himself a life strategist, I can too. So that was a little bit my benchmark, right?
Oh,
but you mentioned imposter syndrome. And that is
yes.
so important. I think we all experience that every now and then, sometimes more, sometimes less. I must admit that in my old corporate career, I actually had it more than what I have now, because back at that time, I was doing something that I didn't really want to do. I didn't know it really, but it was like I felt as if they would come, someone would come and knock me on my shoulder any second and say, "What the heck are you doing here, Josephine? You are in the totally wrong environment." And now I feel much more comfortable and I love to learn. What would be your best tip to get out of the whole imposter syndrome trap?
You know what? Right. And the thing is, I think first of all, what people don't realize is all that pent up knowledge that people have, right? And we feel that because we see our what we call our mentors, our gurus being so great at, promoting themselves, promoting solutions that we sometimes, I guess, fall under the shadow of these great people. Um, and their accomplishments and what they've done and how they impact so many lives, but we don't take into account all the life experiences that each and every one has gone through, what they've learned, be it in personal situations, be it in business situations, be it whatever the situation. So I think to get out of that imposter syndrome, so what I did personally is first of all take notice and note down all the things that were important to me, all the life experiences, right, going through these various things, what I learned from there, going through my business experience, dealing with clients, great situations and really, really difficult situations. I wrote all of that down. And then from that, built something around that I could
Mm-hmm,
share that I found people could certainly find value in that. Does that mean
mm-hmm,
that we'll be able to help everybody and anybody? No, because everybody and anybody has different situations, different circumstances. But sometimes having a coach who's got the experiences, the past experience that you're going through, you're looking for a kind of a way out. Be it yourself as an executive, right? Helping an executive transform into something else, like myself helping an executive, for example, sell more or sell better. Well, our experiences that we both have, we can bring that in and help somebody really. I like to use the term, like the tide coming in that raises the boats. It's the
mm-hmm,
same thing. So taking the
mm-hmm.
time to write those things down, taking notice of that, and saying, you know what, how could I take what I know and share that with the community, share that with my network, share that with people, and with the intention of, well, I'm not here to sell you anything. However, here are my experiences. And if you can take something from that can help you, hey, let's chat. We never know where that could take us.
Yeah. And what I also believe is that what we also kind of tend to forget is that the people who we might talk to might be like 1 year or 2 years behind ourselves. So the language that we spoke back then, or the language that you spoke back then, was different compared to what you know now. And you probably also forget about all the things you learned during this whole transition that happened. So if you try to help people who are kind of like a couple of steps behind you,
Right.
they are so grateful. It's also much, much easier to pursue or follow someone's steps who's just a couple of steps ahead of you and not 100 feet ahead of you, right? Or
Right.
whatever. I don't like
Right.
many, many,
Right.
many, many, many steps
So
ahead of
true.
you.
So true. So true. And at the same time, and you bring up an excellent point, and you're so right, Josephine. Um, what it does really is it shortens the learning cycle, right?
Yeah.
So just like I was mentioning before, instead of taking maybe 1 year to learn what both you and I have learned over time for a specific thing, specific problem, business challenge, life challenge that they're facing, if we can share that with them, and instead of taking a year, it takes 3 months. Well,
Hmm.
look, you've just saved yourself 9 months, right? So
Hmm.
how would that impact you personally in terms of your growth? Perhaps it's how can that positive impact also impact your family, impact your business, impact your employees? So it's far reaching, but
Hmm.
it's something sometimes very small, right? But can have a
Hmm.
huge impact everywhere.
Exactly. And to see these kind of like small blind spots that you actually weren't really aware of, that you that held you back, right? But if we then talk about the topic, so what took me here won't get me there. If we try to dig a little bit deeper into that, and I know why I didn't really believe that before when I was in my corporate career, was because I
Right,
never had a goal back then. Because I didn't
right.
even want to be there in the first place. So if someone, HR usually, asked me, so where do you see yourself in 5 years time? I was like, I don't even want to be here. Well, obviously I didn't say that, but that was what I thought, right? I don't even want to be here. So how can yeah, how can I think where I want to be in 5 years time?
Right.
But and still I really progressed. I was quite successful in my corporate career, right? Without a goal. So I was like, but that's not true. But now the bigger goals that I set myself, I realized that I have to become a different person, but I have to strive, do things differently. But if we try to kind of like break it down, where would you suggest that we start, Stefan?
That's a great question, and I would tell you, Josephine, you brought up some excellent points there. You talked about mindset, you talked about goals, you talked about vision, to some degree,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and I would take that. So if we take those three elements, right? So the mindset, the goals, the vision, and I would add on to that the identity, right?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
have that, if you accept or if you take on a new identity of that person you want to become, right? Then what
Mm-hmm.
what got you here? So let's say, for example, you're a corporate executive, and you're done with that corporate life, and you want to start your own business because you have a great opportunity in front of you, or you've got a great idea, product, service, what have you, um, and you've got all this baggage. Okay, great. But now, let's say a year from now, yeah, business is running, it's running well, right? It gets to a certain level. The issue is that how do you get, so let's say the business is doing $500,000 a year in sales, and now you want to get it to 1 million or to 2 million. Well, exactly to that question is what got you here, or what took you here won't get you there. You have to change that identity of who you are. You have to change how you do things. You have to change, um, for example, you want your sales team, in this case, to sell more. Well, how do you sell more? Do you bring on more people? Do you retool your existing team to be better closers, better appointment setters, improve their closing rates, right? From, let's say, 5 or 10% to 20 and 30% or more. Uh, as an executive, for example, how would you be able to help an executive, right? Since you've been through the various echelons, and I'm not going to answer for you, but I'll say likely you would take your past experience and say, okay, for you to get to that next level, right, to bring on more people, bring on new partners, and so on and so forth, you have to manage differently, right? So, who can you emulate that has that above that where you are right now? Who can you emulate, and how can I help you get there? Right, bridging that gap. And if you do that, you'll be able to scale, or you'll be able to get you to that next level. If you don't, you'll notice pretty quickly that most companies that have a really hard time scaling, it's because there's things there that they're not willing or haven't recognized the fact that they need to change that. They need to get to that next level. Um, and that's been what I've seen. It's been my experience, and speaking with some mentors as well. They were telling me, well, if you're here and you want to get there, obviously mindset, big thing. Got to change how you do things. Perhaps getting admin assistance, getting different resources around you to allow you to plan the vision of the business, to reach out to more people, to reach out to strategic partners that you can do if you're always in your business. So don't work in your business, work outside of your business, right? So you need to change.
Mm-hmm.
You may have heard the term breaking that glass ceiling, right? So how do you
Hmm.
break that
Hmm.
glass ceiling? Well, it's to surround yourself with different people, adding certain key people to your team. What's been your
Hmm.
experience? I'm curious.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And when we talk about identity or self-image or things like that, I definitely agree. But it probably also, or it is also about stepping into a different role.
Hmm.
We have to put on a different hat, and we have to learn new skills that we didn't do before. And all the different levels I did in my corporate career demanded different things from me. But also now that I'm an entrepreneur, I have to know so many new things that I didn't know before. Adding a team of contractors to help me with certain things, right? But then moving into the okay, so when do I need to hire my first real fix employee? I don't think that will take a while, right? Because there are so many fantastic contractors out there. But all these things also kind of require a different role, and we need to be prepared for that, but also to be aware of that they
Sure.
demand a new self-image and a new role, or and in particular new skills, right? To realize that it's we're never done learning. We have to learn and acquire new skills the whole time, which is the cool thing.
You're so right. You bring up some excellent points. And to become that new person, you're right. You have to learn new things. And you know what's also important, and I don't know if that's been your experience, but it's been my experience where sometimes people, like you mentioned, right, they want to hire a contractor, and there's so many great people out there to work with. But the issue is sometimes if you don't know yourself, your business, right, you don't
Yeah.
know, for example, how you may have a specific idea in your mind on how you do your customer care, how you reach out to a customer, how you speak to him, right? You build a certain type of approach and a certain way of doing things. But a lot of people, and I call that, whether you people like it or not, it's sales. At the end of the day, you're selling yourself, you're selling your offer, you're positioning yourself as a potential go-to person. The issue is a lot of people hate sales. What they don't understand is the fundamentals of a great entrepreneur, and a CEO has to be able to sell himself or herself. Um,
Hmm.
but a lot of people just want to push that off. Issue with that is if you don't understand, first of all, what your culture is, what your vision is for your business, how you want your people to approach your clients, right? And being able to do that, then what happens is, well, you're not quite sure what's happening. You're not sure the
Yeah.
quality of those calls, right? So you could be spending a ton of money, right, on getting on leads, so called. The issue is that you may be burning through all kinds of money, but these people don't really understand what you're promoting, right? So I
Yeah,
think the
I
first
have a
fundamental thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I have a perfect example of that. I hired a contractor to help me with social media, and she was a young mom, probably recently married, very happily married, and she started to create these visuals for me, which were of like young people, happily married couples, and I was like, I hadn't communicated my avatar or ideal client properly to her, because I was like, well, if you think about my clients, they are former corporate employees, probably rather midlife, probably rather more into going into a divorce than being a young, happily married couple, right? So I
True,
was like, these,
true,
these,
true.
these things is not going to attract the right people. So first, as you say, first we need to understand what is it that we want to do? Who do we want to work with? What are those characteristics and why? And then we can hire the people to support us.
So true, right? And that's at every level. In your case, you talked about marketing, absolutely. So you see right there, right, the disconnect between what she thought was right and what you were expecting. And that's
Mhm.
every level of the organization. Even as at one point you get to hire, for example, administrative assistant to help you manage your schedule and things like that. If you're not clear what the expectation is and how easy or not it is for people to communicate with you directly, all of that is part and parcel of your success. But you have to understand it. Like coming back to your point, I have to put on many hats to understand where I'm going first before I can share that, right? But some people try to kind of skip those things. I get it, right? We will all want to buy speed, But like I like to say, you have to learn how to crawl before you can actually walk, and then learn how to walk before you can run, and so on and so forth, right? So that's that's my vision in regards to that, definitely.
Absolutely, I definitely agree. And back to your point about, sorry, my son just came home.
It's okay. Life
That's the
happens.
point of being alive, right? Well,
That's
so,
right.
so, so we had dog barkings, we have kids coming home, and I think that's
That's
life,
right.
right? But to your point about everyone being a salesperson, I definitely agree with that. And that is also not until we kind of like embrace that role as business owners
Yes.
that we are a salesperson is when
Yes.
we get really good at sales. And
That's right. That's so
if you
true.
feel uncomfortable about sales, then you won't sell because it
Yes.
shows.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And at the end of the day, I think you bring up a great point too, right? So some companies are using social media. Some believe it. Some don't believe it. I would say the younger crowd, younger generations, yeah, they definitely use it every day and strategically, and they're doing an amazing job on that. I think that there's some other, people like in their midlife, 30s, 40s, 50s, that know it, but don't truly understand the value of it, right? And with a good strategy in place, especially if you're spending money on ads to pull people in, that's great. But you have to also be able to speak to these people, right? They want to know you. They want to know who you are. They're interested, but they want to know more about you. So there's different ways to connect with people so that it's not, the pure hard sell. You're going to buy from me or else. There's so many things you can do that are different today to connect, and you're laughing at,
Yeah, I was
I'm
like,
sure you've
you,
gotten those calls, right?
damn it, you need to buy from me now or else. Yeah, definitely agree.
Right.
We're not forcing anyone, right?
That's it. That's it. So, and
Yeah,
I've heard, and everybody's heard the term, well, everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold to, right?
yeah,
But there's ways to do that. And it's not that complicated. Once you learn a few things, it's easy to implement, and it becomes a joy, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. They don't buy from your business. Don't forget, they buy from you. So it's that human connection. Once you create that human connection, and the
hmm,
barriers drop, all of a sudden it's communication, it's ebb and flow, and it's just, it's easy for people to say, you know what, this is like buying from a neighbor, it's like buying from my friend. It's I feel comfortable, and I want to buy from you because I like how you're approaching me. You're listening to me. You're not there to sell me. You're listening to me. You're writing notes down, but you're listening to my needs. And in the end, we get together and you say, yeah, I want to move forward, right? So it's
exactly.
not that
And
complicated.
no, and also to build that trust, because if you don't, and to me, and as you do too, we work very very close to our clients, right? And if we then it has to work both ways. It's not just one way, and click this and it's downloaded and it's sold, right? It's very personal too. Whereas
Right.
two of my clients actually said it's a family business more or less, right? It's more of a family business.
Well, it's becoming that trusted advisor. So if you can
Hmm.
become that trusted advisor, you have your relationship level, all of a sudden from being here goes to here. It's very
Hmm.
different. People feel that they can tell you things. People feel that they can share difficulties, share their challenges, right? So that's where the difference in the communication is. So when you break
Hmm.
down those barriers, and now people are telling you, look, my business, I'm hurting in this way. I'm having a difficult time. I don't understand what's going on. Like, what are your thoughts? What do you think I should do? Or
Hmm.
what are potential scenarios? You know, why would this work? Why does that not work? But you're connecting, and it's what's important, and some people don't know this, but that inner child connection. So from child to child connection, where there's no barriers, it's just two friends meeting on the street saying, look, how can you help me? Do you think you can help me? Very different. Very different than just
Hmm.
that hard sell. Well, I sell a vacuum cleaner for 14.95. What do you think? It's a great deal. Oh, and if you buy the vacuum cleaner, and I'm not making fun of people who sell vacuum cleaners, please. But what I'm saying is, that hard sell instead of that consultative selling, where you buy the vacuum cleaner, I'll give you 3 bags. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That is kind of like the old salesperson, they walked down the doors, knocked on the doors, saying cold selling, right? To say,
Yeah,
do you need a vacuum cleaner, or maybe you need two, right?
yeah.
So I would
And
actually like to, yeah, sorry.
no, I was just going to say real quick. I mean, a lot of people think that cold calling is dead. I think that no, cold calling is still very alive and well. It still needs to be done, but when it's done well with the right approach, you know, and it doesn't matter what you do, you know, it can work miracles. It's just learning how to do it right. But sorry to interrupt you, Josephine. So go ahead.
Yeah. Before we actually wrap up, just a couple of words to cold calling. I am a little bit allergic to cold calling. I don't want. You smell a DM right away. I got an email earlier today, which was very nice, and I wrote back to her and I said, I'll keep her in mind. So that was a different way of cold emailing, right? But since I don't really resonate with these types of selling, it will be very hard for me to use that approach as a sales approach. Or do you see that differently?
No, I think you know what it just depends on the approach, right? A
Mm-hmm.
big word that I underline there is the approach, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
when you smell it, where it just that it's this DM or this phone call is to sell you. I mean, you feel it. You feel the intensity on the phone, or you
Yeah,
feel the
already
intensity. I
before
mean,
it binged in your inbox, right?
right, right. I mean, and you feel it even in the DM in the words they use, right? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
first and foremost, if you're making a cold call, the, the biggest issue is that most people don't realize is they want to close right away,
Uh-huh.
right? They want to get that damn deal right now.
Yeah.
Whereas doing an approach where the intention is, and I'll underline intention, what is, before me even making that cold call, what's your intention? What
Mm-hmm.
is it that you want out of this call, right? And secondly is having no attachment. So low attachment, high intention. So I want to help you, but I'm not attached. So in other words, well, if you don't buy from me, it's okay. Maybe not now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe later. But in your intention, so when you're making this call, essentially, and in what we do, and it's true of many organizations, it's all you want to do is book a second call, right? Because now when you're making a cold call, what's happening is you're calling this person out of the blue. This call wasn't planned, it wasn't scheduled. So essentially, you want to end the call with having an opportunity to speak for maybe a half an hour instead of just 5 minutes, right? Because if you get
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity and they're open to, based on your 10-minute conversation, 5-minute conversation, to book that second call, well, they'll be open to, okay, let's chat a little longer and you piqued my interest, right? Then it
Mm-hmm.
changes the game because you're no longer that salesperson who just wants to close at, I'll close or else. It's not that approach. In the end, it's, you know, asking a few right questions such as, um, what's going on in your business? Are you facing similar challenges? We're talking with these clients. We see that they have these similar challenges. Are you experiencing similar challenges as well? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So just how, and also the tonality, the intensity of the call, right? You're coming in basically as somebody who is no attachment, very humble, and the opportunity then asking those key questions to move them to that second call, maybe in a week's time, maybe 3 days time, maybe the next day. And when you have that person on the phone, what a lot of people don't do is just ask the person, by the way, do you have your calendar in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
then it forces that person to first of all disconnect from what's going on in their life, what's going on in
Mm-hmm.
that one like 15-minute window. Can you look at your calendar for me and tell me what are you available next? Right? And when you ask that question in that tonality, you'll get a response. Well, yeah, tomorrow or Monday I'm open at 9 o'clock. All right. So I'll connect with you. Can you confirm what your best phone number is and your best email in the unlikely event that something happens and I can't get there on that call?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it changes the dynamics of that call, right? So that you can then the likelihood, you increase your likelihood of having that second call by like 30, 40, 50%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very
So
good.
some tips, right? Some tips on how you can do that. But it's And you got to do it. You got to do it every day to be good at it. You book an hour or two in your calendar, you just do it, and you don't care about what people might say because we don't know what's going on in their life, but you just do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? We don't know what's going on in anyone's life.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So
thank you
it's
so
like an
much.
interruption. You're welcome. You're
Exactly.
welcome.
We are already hitting the 30-minute mark. So I just want to quickly summarize if I forgot something, because what we spoke about a lot of things, right? We spoke about the imposter syndrome. We spoke about how to kind of overcome imposter syndrome by writing down our achievements and I think also be proud of them, to be a little bit, it's okay to brag, right? We spoke about having a goal and a vision and to take steps towards that vision, but also the importance of our self-image and our identity. And then we walked into this area of, I think everything is sales, actually. Everything is sales. It's about personal branding. Even if you're kind of like, you're not an entrepreneur, but you want to do something differently in kind of like in your business role or in your corporate role, you have to sell yourself and to show people that you're good at what you're doing. That's also personal branding. That's also sales. And people buy from people independently of what it is that we're selling, right? And to become that, when we are entrepreneurs, to become that trusted advisor that people really believe in and trust to help them get from point A to point B the fastest way possible. And I
Exactly.
really liked your last tip where you said, unattach yourself from the outcome of any call that you might, like any sales call or any connect call that you might have, and get a second call on the agenda. I think that
Right.
is a very, very good, advice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And it's the intention, right? Just do it. Just do it. You'd be surprised the results you get. You'll be surprised, right?
Exactly.
And
And
I
what's the
mean,
worst thing
if you
that can
look at
happen?
exactly right, and if you look how, and in closing, if you look how fast we connected, right? We just exchanged, and if you noticed, you talked about DMs before. So coming back to that point, there was high intention, low attachment, right? We
Yeah.
communicated, we exchanged. It was honest, it was transparent, no hidden agenda. It was just two people connecting. And guess what? I mean, we are connecting today on a podcast, right? So thank you for that. I mean, I'm honored. It's a real pleasure, and I had a blast with you here. I truly enjoyed our conversation.
I don't think we can see if there are any comments though, because it looks as if Facebook and LinkedIn are disconnected. We are live there, but I can't see if there were any
Right.
comments who came in from those platforms, unfortunately. So if there are any comments that we will see afterwards, I suggest we go back and reply to those comments if there are any comments.
Absolutely.
How can people best connect with you, Stephane?
So the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn right now, and that's through the invitation that Josefine sent you with my name attached. That's the best way is LinkedIn. If you have any questions, DM me. I don't have anything to sell, so DM me and let's have that meaningful conversation and see how I can bring up my experience to help you.
And the same way for me, actually, you find me on LinkedIn. Easiest ways to find me on Josefine Warner on LinkedIn, or in my Facebook community, which is online entrepreneurs community. Oh, we have a comment. Solid event. Thank you. I can't see who it is though, and
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we really love to connect with people to build kind of like our whole network, and that is what we're here for. So thank you so much, Stephane, and thank you everyone for watching, and I am going to end this broadcast now. Thank you.